Hey guys, welcome to this real-time painting comic video. I'm going to be working on 3 pages of my comic that will be debuting at the Shortbox Virtual Comic Festival in the fall, in October. Shortbox is a UK publisher. They're based in the UK, but they're going to be holding this month-long virtual comic festival where a bunch of different comic artists all over the world are going to be debuting new comics. So I got accepted this year. So this comic is going to be debuting there. You can purchase it digitally and you'll be able to read it. So yeah, this comic is quite long. I'm hoping to get it done before September. I think the beginning of September or mid-September is when all the pages are due. So hopefully I can get it done by then. This comic is pretty long unless I decide to cut off a bunch of pages. But yeah, so I'm going to be working on the first 3 pages of that, and you can see it from beginning to end. But at the same time, I thought I would talk about my experience at VanCAF, which just happened last month, the 21st, I believe, and the 22nd of May. I'm already forgetting. If you've been following my vlogs, the last vlog I posted was my tabling there at Vancouver. I didn't talk too much about it. I did do some updates at the end of the day while I was there in Vancouver, but I thought I'd go a little bit more in depth in this video while you watch me paint in the background. So have a drink of coffee or tea ready. You can put this on in the background while you draw, paint, clean, whatever you want to do, because it's going to be fairly long. I'm hoping I can fit a bunch of commentary over the footage that I took, which is over an hour. But at the same time, I think at the end I'm going to be doing a Q&A of some of the questions that I received in my recent community post asking for questions. So hopefully I can fill in the time so you can just hear me chat away in the background as you are working on your own thing. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to talk about is VanCAF 2022. I apologize in advance if my voiceover is a little rambly. I tend to kind of digress with my topics and I kind of talk about other things, so hopefully I can redirect myself back to the topic at hand. But I did write down some notes, some really quick ones. So yeah, so VanCAF 2022. This was my second time tabling at VanCAF, which is the Vancouver Comic Arts Festival in Canada. So if you are watching outside of Canada, it is it's held in Vancouver. So yeah, it's my second time tabling. The first time I tabled at VanCAF was in 2017, so quite some years ago. But I really had a good experience when I went the first time. And when the first time I went, I also treated it as a sort of vacation, because I knew going into it that I really wouldn't profit that much. This was back in 2017. I also kind of thought that way, and I was right. In 2017, I believe I made $400 total for the 2 days that I was tabling, and so not much profit there. But I didn't really bring too many things. Looking back at the vlog that I did back in 2017 and looking at the table that I set up, I just brought a few comics, a couple stickers, and it looked like I was doing a bunch of original artwork or commissions while I was tabling there. So I didn't really bring too much, a couple prints. I didn't have that many comics back then. I just had a few that I finished and printed out. They were mostly comics that I did in school. So again, I didn't have too many things that were for sale. I don't even think I brought buttons, and I don't remember having as much issues bringing over stuff in my luggage compared to this year, when I really struggled trying to fit everything into a luggage. I had a lot of stuff to sell, so it was a very different experience between 2017 and 2022. So yeah, there's that time gap, that big 5-year time gap, where in those 5 years I had accumulated a lot of new content, a lot of new comics, a lot of new zines. I had experimented with creating new merchandise, so I had buttons, I had stickers, I had prints, and so it was very different. Again, 2017 is when I think I was trying to start a whole art career, freelance illustrator career, so it was the very beginnings of it, and the 5 years have it made me a little bit more succinct in what I was doing and what I wanted to put out in the world. So in 2022, I had way more comics and a few other merchandise that I had experimented on with selling. The biggest thing that I had in 2022, this year, is my really thick sticker book. If you've been following my videos for a while, I have been talking about the process. I had been talking about the process of creating a sticker book with over 52 pages, so 400 plus stickers. And so that was the mainstay. That was the biggest highlight of what the stuff I was going to sell at VanCAF, and it was one of the the most anticipated things for me to see how it would do. And I'm really proud of the sticker book. If you haven't seen it, I will leave some links if you want to purchase it. If you want to look into it and maybe purchase it on my online store, I'll leave a link to my store down below, but I'll also post some pictures around here. But yeah, the sticker books, I'll talk about that a little bit more towards when I'm talking about what was popular when I was selling at VanCAF. But yeah, the biggest thing, I guess, merch-wise, was the creation of the sticker book. A lot of the comics that I brought in 2022 were, I guess, 2 of them were very new. I had just finished Too Much on Your Plate maybe like a week prior to going to VanCAF, maybe 2 weeks prior to going to VanCAF. So I had, whenever I do conventions, I always like to have at least one new thing when I'm tabling. So either a new piece of merchandise, a new comic, a new zine. I don't know if it's like the too much gene in me, but I really always want to have something new for people to see on my con table. Alright, I feel like we're already going all over the place. So let me go into my notes. Let me look at what I wrote down. The first sticky that I wrote down are costs. So if you are if you've tabled at an artist alley or a comic convention, this might interest you. It always interests me to see how other artists kind of break down their costs, or when they talk a little bit more depth into it. So I'm going to do that here, and just so you know how much I made exactly, if you're curious about that. Everybody's different. I don't do fan art. My main comic scene is the indie comic scene, because that's what I like to do. I love to make comics. I don't really register or sign up for like anime tables, because I don't really draw too much anime. Why did I say it that way? I don't really draw too much anime or watch anime, and I don't really do a lot of merchandise pertaining to, different anime IPs. So I'm very limited in my convention scene. I only do a lot of just indie comics, comic festivals locally. So yeah, again, it's different for everybody, and it's also different depending on like what kind of convention it is. If it's a well-known convention that a lot of people flock to, or if it's a local convention. What else would make a difference? Tables would make a difference, like where you are in the venue is really important. So anyway, let me just quickly talk about numbers and costs. I already talked about this in the vlog if you watched that, but let me talk about it a little bit more. So in the first day, which was the Saturday, the 21st, the convention was open from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. On the first day, I had made $1,363.40, which is, it just breaks records. That is the highest profit I've made at a convention for the first day. I don't know if it's because, people are really hungry to get back into visiting conventions and purchasing stuff from artists, but this was my first in-person convention since the pandemic, and I think people were really excited to go to the convention scene, and they were a bit more they wanted to really buy things, but the foot traffic was excellent for the first day of VanCAF, and it's hard for me to compare it to other years because I'm not local. I don't go to VanCAF every year, and the pandemic it just changes everything, because you can't really compare. I don't know if VanCAF did a virtual convention, but it's hard to compare because I wasn't there last year, and there was no actual con the year before. So, but yeah, either way, first day for me, I it was really good. I made $1,300 on the first day, and the first day was extremely hectic. I wasn't able to. I thought about doing commissions because I was worried about the foot traffic. I thought maybe I'd have a lot of dead time where I was sitting and not selling anything and there was not much traffic, but traffic was consistent after the first hour of the, like, by the time it was a little slow, the first half hour. I was a little worried, but then the first half hour traffic just started to amp up until the very end of the day. I was busy until the end of the day, which was crazy. I've never experienced that before, but I guess I experienced that when I went to TCAF, which is a different convention. But looking over at the other tables where I was, it looked like all the tables were pretty busy on the first day. And on the second day when I visited, when I was able to walk around and talk to other artists, they said that it was really hectic the first day. So I'm really happy for everybody if they did sell a lot on the first day, because I definitely did. So yeah, I made that much on the first day. First day again was very, very, very busy. It was really crazy. The second day I made $827.85. So that's still pretty freaking insane. The last time I went to VanCAF, like I said, for the 2 days, I had only made $400. So I don't know, again, if it's because people are hungry to just go to conventions and this was the first convention that they could go to and, you know, spend money on artists, or it's because of the way I was placed. Like, my table was right beside the entrance. It was also right beside the ATM, which was kind of funny because as people lined up to grab money from the ATM, they could see my table. So maybe they decided to get the money and then look over at my table and then maybe buy one or two things. So that really helps out. Yeah, so table placement really affects how much you sell and how much you make on the day of the convention. And I think I've done enough conventions to know that it really does make a difference. I think my first convention was either, I don't even remember, I believe it was in 2015, either 2015 or 2016. But I've done a couple of conventions already to have the experience of, you know, how table placement really affects traffic and how much you make. I've been placed in different areas of a venue where the entrance is far away or the entrance is really close to me, where I can tell there's a really big difference, because depending on, you know, where people come in, they might either see your table or they might skip your table just because they don't see you, or by the time they get to your table, they're completely overwhelmed with the amount of stuff that they've already seen in the other table. So sometimes they just totally skip you. So it really depends on where you are placed. So yeah, for the 2 days, I made a total of $2,191.25. And so that's not counting the costs yet, but that has really broken my own personal records for the conventions that I've attended. I have never made that much money at a convention, even at TCAF when I did it back in 2019, which was one of the biggest conventions that I've done. In the indie comic scene. Obviously it's very different. Like, foot traffic is extremely different if you're talking about like a conventions like Comic-Con or something like that. Totally different. It's a bit of more niche and a smaller scene, but TCAF is one of the biggest. Anyway, I broke the personal record of more than $2,000. Just broke $2,000, which is kind of crazy. I just couldn't believe it. So I actually also listed down the costs that I had to pay in terms of Vancouver. Like I mentioned, I treated this convention as kind of like a vacation as well. If you don't know, if you've just kind of tuned in and you are at this point of the video, I actually work full-time. So I work at an office 3 days a week, and 2 days I have pretty much a day off, but I treat that as my studio day. So I do have a full-time job, quote-unquote full-time job. So the stuff that I do for art, I have been doing it as a side thing. It's like a side hustle. A hustle is not a good word to use. I use it as, it's like a hobby of mine. So what was I trying to say? Yeah, so I treated Vancouver as kind of like a vacation. Going into it, I thought maybe, you know, I won't make as much profit. That's fine. It's gonna be a vacation. I actually went to Vancouver with my partner, so we spent a week in Vancouver, and over the weekend I just did the tabling. So, so cost-wise, the flight, keep in mind this is split between my partner and I. So cost for flight for me, along with my luggage, I had to pay extra to bring my luggage over the plane. My flight was $290. The Airbnb, my half, was $1,000 and $1,070. So that's how much I paid for the Airbnb. We could have paid, I could have paid for less if I had booked earlier at Airbnb, but either way, Vancouver is very, very expensive anyway, so I wasn't expecting to be paying like cheaper than $200 for a week stay somewhere. But yeah, so Airbnb / hotel was $1,070. The table itself for VanCAF was $200 initially, but because of COVID, they actually limited the amount of artists exhibiting, so I was able to upgrade to a 6-foot table instead of a 3-foot table. So I decided to upgrade to a 6-foot table, and I paid an extra $90. So in total it was $290 for that 6-foot table. And transportation, let's say an estimate of $130. We used a taxi to get from our home to the Toronto Pearson Airport, and then a taxi back from Pearson back home, and then some transit costs when we were at Vancouver for the SkyTrain and stuff like that. All in all, total costs, just for the flight, the Airbnb, the VanCAF table itself, and transportation estimated was about $1,780, so $1,780. That was the total costs. I did not count costs in terms of like the paper I used to print out all the comics, the time I spent prepping for the convention, the amount of money I paid for sticker paper to make stickers, the amount of time I used to cut out the stickers, the cost of the watercolor paper to print the prints in. What else? Just the miscellaneous stuff that I need for my table, like the tablecloth and all that kind of stuff, the button parts and stuff. I did not count that in the cost for tabling at VanCAF 2022. It's kind of difficult because like a lot of the stuff that I used to prep for my convention for VanCAF, I had already paid for before, so it's kind of difficult to assess that. It would be easier, it would make more sense if I assessed the amount of time I spent actually prepping for Vancouver. And so in terms of like the amount of money I made profit wise, it was not very much if you count all the time and effort that I spent prepping for it. But if you just look at it money wise, like in terms of how much money I made at VanCAF, which was about $2,000, I basically broke even and I paid for my full vacation. So I think that's a win for me. I mean, again, I broke records. I didn't expect to have as much profit as I did to be able to pay for the flight, the Airbnb, the table. It's really great that I was able to pay off the table already. So like if you think about it, really, I didn't really make that much money for the amount of time and effort that I put in, but face value, I made it's kind of fun to say that I had a free vacation because of the 2 days that I spent tabling at VanCAF. I was able to make that much money and recoup some of the costs, which was $1,780. So I think it's pretty amazing. I wasn't expecting the amount of success that I had at VanCAF, so I was very lucky. I feel very blessed and really thankful to the people who came by my table and bought something from me. So really quite a success. So I'll talk a little bit about more about the convention and how was it worth it to go and stuff. But the next thing I want to talk about is like the stuff that I sold and what was popular and what really drew people's attention. But before we move on to that, I just want to say technically, I guess I wrote it down here, I made about $400 in profit if you just count the cost that I listed down and the profit that I made on the 2 days that I was tabling. But again, I'm not counting the amount of time and effort that I spent prepping and all the other materials that I spent, such as paper, watercolor paper, button parts and stuff like that. I didn't really count that. So if you want to look at it, I just made $400 just at the amount of money that I made and the cost. So alright, so let's move on to what I have titled in my sticky as the popular items versus the not so popular items. So this goes without saying that what's popular when you table at an artist alley, at like an indie comic convention like this, it's very different depending on where you are, what scene you actually create merchandise and things for. It's very different. Like I mentioned, I am mostly around the indie comic scene, zines and stuff like that. So it really depends, but there are some general trends that I've observed throughout my time tabling at, artist alleys and conventions like this. I can see that there are trends as to into what's popular, despite it being like an indie comic scene or like an anime art scene. I did table at like one like more anime gaming convention way back when. So anyway, so I listed down the popular items. If you watched my vlog for VanCAF, I kind of go through all the stuff that I brought. And also if you watched the prep vlogs, you saw the things that I brought. But for the popular items, I would count my sticker book as being fairly popular because on the first day, I had 5 left. So I had sold so much of them. I had only brought 20 because of the limit that my luggage could bring. I could only bring a total of 50 pounds on my checked luggage, which cost me like $80 itself to just check in. And I didn't really have enough space for my personal item to put more merch in because I needed to, put some personal items like some change of clothes and stuff like that. So I only brought 20 sticker books, but I think for it going really quickly on the first day, I think they were really popular. And just the amount of feedback that I got from people, even people who didn't buy it, just how excited they got to see that it was a sticker book that was full of stickers. Some people picked up the book because I had it on display. Some people picked it up and said, "What, there's stickers in here?" So they didn't really understand that it was a book full of stickers. They might have thought that it was like an empty sticker book you can put stickers in that you've collected, but no, it's full of stickers. So a lot of them were really excited about that. Some of them couldn't justify, paying what I had charged, which is $30. I sell it for $25 on my store. Just because I could only bring 20 at Vancouver, I thought maybe if I bump up the price, I will profit a little bit more, which I did. But anyway, so some people couldn't justify paying $30 for so many stickers because they're like, I don't know if I can use all of it. Some of them said like the title is very apt because they already have so many stickers, but I found that a lot of people who said that they have already so many stickers, they still bought the sticker book. So it was kind of amusing. It just the title of the book itself kind of broke the ice. People really had a kick out of it, and I had a kick out of people's reactions too about owning so many stickers. So yeah, a lot of people it was a really good reception for my sticker book, and I was a little worried about the reception because I love stickers, but I don't know how many people would pay for the sticker book to get it. So I was really excited about that reception. So I thought it was fairly popular. I sold out of all the sticker books, by the way. Even the display copy, which was really mangled by the second day, somebody still wanted to buy it. They said it had a lot of character, even though a lot of people had like flicked through it, so it was a little bent. It was dirty a little bit on the sides, just because it's a sticker book, so it's kind of sticky on the sides. Somebody still wanted to buy the display copy at full price, so that was really surprising. And thank you to that person. I don't think they were watching this vlog, but I just got a kick out of that. So it was really amazing to see the positive reception to the sticker book, and I thought that was a popular item. So I mentioned general trends earlier, and in terms of general trends, I'm kind of talking about things that most people, like the general populace, really is attracted to. So in terms of the merch that I was selling, people really like raccoons. At least like the majority of the people who came to the table and saw stuff that I've made with raccoons in it, my raccoon buttons, the trash panda buttons, they're really popular. I sold out of all of the raccoon buttons that I have, the individual buttons, and I sold out of all the Trash Panda button sets. People love raccoons, people love dogs, people love cats, so things like that, like what the general populace really likes. Even if they, like, if people, there's a lot of people who come into these conventions who just come in because they kind of see it on the street and they want to come in, since it's a free, you know, it's a free thing to go into. You don't have to pay to enter. There are some people who just come off of the streets and are like looking around and seeing what's up. They might not necessarily be into comics, but they'll find something that's for them at every table that they visit. So I have a bunch of buttons that just is the Tim Hortons cup. Tim Hortons is a coffee place here in Canada. So I just made a button that just has a Timmy's cup, and people really like that. I sold a bunch of those. I sold like I said, I sold a lot of the raccoon stuff that I had. People love ducks. I sold out of the duck buttons that I had. Everybody just loves little cute animals, more so raccoons, cats, and ducks. People like bubble tea. I sold a lot of my hollow stickers, boba stickers. I made these through Sticker app, and they're these like holographic bubble tea stickers, and people really like those. People also really liked the mermaid sticker that I made. So anything that is very, you know, not edible, people, stuff that is just like in general something that people might like. So like I said, cats, dogs, those tend to be really popular just because it's easily, that's the word, easily digestible. So those are my main ticket items. Not so popular were my prints. I brought a lot of different prints, and I didn't sell a lot of those. The prints that I did sell were kind of like really aesthetic ones. So my Bat Lady print, people really like that. But I sold more of the Bat Lady prints than I did of my any other of my prints. So again, Bat Lady is pretty easily digestible. It's you know, it's aesthetic. She's pretty. She's wearing a cute outfit. So people tended to like that. And not so popular, I sold, you know, VanCAF is a comic convention, but my comics didn't really sell that well. I sold, I brought a bunch of different titles, and I sold one of each title at the 2 days that I was there, but people didn't really, you know, kind of go to the comics. A lot of unless they're really comic collectors, it was more of my general merchandise, like my buttons and my stickers, that were quite popular. Another factor that maybe brought into my comics being not so popular is because I was selling them for $20. The amount of effort I put into printing my comics, cutting them, rounding the corners, printing them, I bumped my price up from $10 to $20. Also, the amount of you know, printing and the paper was quite costly, so I decided instead of $10 that I had been selling them for $10 before, I was going to sell them for $20. And I'm going to be selling them for $20 at TCAF as well, again, just because of the time and the effort and the materials that I'm using for these comics. It takes a lot of time to just print and cut and corner around each page, so maybe that was a factor. $20 was a bit too pricey for a bunch of people to just buy comics, so that could be why I didn't sell too many comics. But again, general trends really do it. So if you are going to be tabling at a convention and you just don't know what the trends are or what people might want, just stick with like the easily digestible stuff. So cute cats, cute dogs, cute raccoons or something like that, but give it a spin, and then you can better assess next time what you want to do. You might want to do next time, since you know what's popular, you can kind of adjust it. Maybe put your OC cuddling like a cute dog or a cute cat or something like that, so you can put your spirit into your merchandise, but don't have to sell out because you just know people just like, you know, cats and dogs. That was one of the major obstacles for me when I first started, you know, doing conventions and artist alleys, is because one of the first conventions I did, I remember, was more of an anime and gaming expo. So going into it, I really knew I had to create some merch that was, you know, that had anime on it or had fan art. So one of the things I did was create buttons and prints of Kiki's delivery service, and I also did like Pokemon buttons and stuff like that. But because I wasn't really connected too much with Kiki or the characters or that world. Even though I love the movie, it just wasn't me. I forced myself to create these, the prints and buttons that were Pokemon and Kiki, but I just felt like I had sold my soul, and it was so difficult to create and sell. And when I was selling them, I just kind of felt like a fake person. Like I kind of felt fake because, again, it just wasn't, my thing. And so that's why a lot of the tables that I sign up for are where I can sell a lot of my original artwork. And even though I am tabling at places that are more indie or have more of an original artwork focus, that doesn't mean you just have to, you can only do what you want, because you might not be able to sell something. You need to have something that is easily digestible for, the general population. You can't be too selfish. You can be if you're maybe really popular or famous, but you still have to cater to an audience. And so I think throughout my years of being at an artist alley, I've created merchandise that I'm comfortable and happy with selling, even though it's not like, it still kind of caters to what's popular. So cute dogs, cute cats, stuff like that. So I think that's one of the major advice that I can give is you have to create something that you are proud of selling, that you are happy of selling. And it might take some time to kind of find that place where you're happy with something, but also it caters to what people like. But you'll get there. You just have to keep on experimenting, and you have to kind of, like, with practice, you have to sign up for a bunch of conventions and kind of know what's good. So yeah, so anyway, what was I talking about? So yeah, those were my popular items versus my not so popular items. If I can't think of anything else, I think let's move on to one other point on my sticky note is I was selling originals at VanCAF, and I did sell 8 total. Most of the ones that I sold were the cheaper originals that were about $10. The most expensive one that I sold was about $50. So it definitely isn't the scene to sell original artwork. There are scenes, convention scenes for that, where people are more likely to be looking for original art. I'm hoping that TCAF is one of them, because I will be tabling at TCAF this coming June. So on the 17th and the 18th, it's coming up. I need to prep for that. Hopefully I can sell more originals there. I'm not sure how much people are going to be are willing to pay for the originals, but I'm gonna bring them there because it's gonna be a local convention for me. It's not too far. I can bring as much merch as I want. I won't have the amount of table space that I did at VanCAF because I only have a 3-foot table at TCAF, but I'm gonna bring as much stock in merchandise as I can. So yeah, I sold 8 originals, and that's it, I guess, for what I had sold. Now I'm gonna go over some like general thoughts I had about Vancouver and what I think might have been interesting if you are an artist who is thinking about going into tabling at a convention, or if you're from Vancouver and want to table at VanCAF next time or next year, or if you are from Canada who might want to visit Vancouver and maybe table as well. I'm going to think about some thoughts that I had missed in my earlier ramblings here. One major thing that I can think of is Square readers, or being able to get payment via credit card or debit card. I think now more than ever that is really important to have if you are thinking about, expanding into bigger conventions, or even if you're starting out into an artist alley, it might be a good idea to get a Square reader or something of the sort to be able to take payments, because I think when I was starting, it was mostly cash. That made sense. It was easier. There wasn't really a lot of ways to get payment unless you were like a bigger company or a bigger, business. You were able to take credit card and debit payments. But now it's a lot easier for smaller artists and smaller businesses to have, a Square reader of some kind. So especially also the pandemic, a lot of people just don't want to carry money. They don't want to touch a lot of stuff, so they want to pay via their credit card or via their debit card. And I think that's a really important thing. A lot of people asked if I took card, and I was able to take card. Unfortunately, with the square reader I only had the dongle version and not the bigger one where you can tap. I could only take credit card. So a lot of people also were only able to pay with debit card. So I definitely missed out on a lot of sales because of that. But at least I was able to make sales with from people who only had their credit cards on hand and had no cash. So yeah, a lot of people asked if they could pay by credit card, and I was able to cater to that. So that was really good. I'm happy that I was able to do that. And because I only have, the free Square allows you to get a free Square reader, one that is a swipe. You swipe the credit card through. If you sign up, you get a free Square reader in the mail. But I decided to bump up and get the tap so I can also accept debit payments in future conventions. So now I can accept debit and credit card, and it's also a lot easier instead of me trying to swipe the card repeatedly. I found that that took up a lot of time because the Square reader, when you swipe, you have to be really straight with the card and really slow so it can read it quickly. But now that I have the tap coming in the mail, it's going to be a lot easier when I go to TCAF, and it's going to be easier when it's very busy. I found that on the first day of VanCAF, when I was trying to do the Square reader and it was so busy, it was really difficult to kind of keep up with. So yeah, again, really important you're able to take payments of that kind nowadays. Another thing is, even though credit card and debit payments are important, you also need to be able to take cash payments and make change. So the conventions I've been in, some of them were able to provide floats to the artists. So this pretty much means having, cash change, to be able to, break a 20 or break a $50 bill. I've only had one person try and, break a $50 bill, but a lot of people who come to conventions who are ready usually have a smaller change in hand and don't make the artist try and break a 50 or 100. But I had one person who who said if I could break a 50, and I was able to because that was on the second day. So you still need to be able to make cash payments and make change. Like I said, some conventions have a float table or a person running around being like, do you need, change for your table? So I didn't know that VanCAF provided that until the day. So my boyfriend and I had went to the bank the day before so we could get some change for me. I just pretty much bring $100 float. So I have a bunch of $5 bills, a bunch of loonies and toonies, which is $1 $1 coins and $2 coins in Canadian. We call them loonies and toonies. And I had a few $10 bills. Because a lot of the cash machines in Canada spit out 20s. A lot of people pay in 20s, so I had to break a lot of 20s. But yeah, $100 float is enough for me, so you have to be able to do that. I've seen a couple videos where people are starting out in artist alleys and they didn't have any cash on hand. They could only do like credit card payments, but you still need to be able to do some cash payments because some people just carry cash. Also, it's a lot easier to pay with cash because you don't have to be dinged by the fees that the Square reader, dings you for. For every Square payment that goes through, I have to pay a fee for that. They take some of the money off. So I think artists prefer to be paid in cash rather than through credit card, but it's unavoidable nowadays. The one thing that I'm going to change though is I did get a couple people asking if they could pay for a button, which is $1 via credit card. And unfortunately, I had said yes to those people, but next time what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if you want to pay by credit card or debit card, it's a $3 minimum. Just because of the fees that I pay for, if I put through $1 charge through Square, I just get like 30 cents or something like that. I don't even remember, but yeah, so next time I'm gonna do like a minimum payment of $3 or something like that if you want to pay by credit card or debit card. And yeah, so next time that's what I'm gonna do because I had a ton of people paying $1 through a credit card. And yeah, so I think that was the biggest thing I wanted to mention in terms of my thoughts about overall artist alleys. But now I'm going to talk about my overall thoughts about VanCAF. If you are local and you are looking to do a table at an artist alley or something like that, and maybe this scene might work well for you, the comic scene, So I'll talk a little bit about my experience at VanCAF. Overall, it's definitely positive, but yeah, if you're local, or if you are, you want to come to Vancouver and you're an artist and maybe you want to do tabling at the same time you're doing a vacation like I did, here are my thoughts about VanCAF. So overall, VanCAF, the two times that I've gone, everybody is so friendly. The staff and the organizers and the volunteers, all so friendly and very helpful. They have volunteers walking around asking if you want to take a break. They can't handle money for you, like in TCAF they do this too. The volunteers do this as well. They can't handle money for you, but they can sit at your table and watch your things if you need to go to the washroom and you don't have a friend to help you out. If you need to take a break, they have break rooms, especially for exhibitors, where it's just a quiet room. If you're feeling overwhelmed with the crowds and just getting too anxious, there is a place for you to just chill out and just drink some water and just get you get a quiet break. So the volunteers will watch your table for you if you need a break. Anything like that. If you need to grab some lunch, they'll watch your table, just making sure nobody grabs your stuff. But they can't take any payments. So the organizer, extremely friendly. The person who organized it in 2017, so friendly and so helpful. The person who organized it this year, different person, but again, very friendly, very communicative. I had some issues with my table, and they fixed it, right away. And because, of COVID protocols and health protocols changing all the time, they were really quite responsive. So I was very happy with the help I got. They thought about, for this year at least, they thought about how COVID is happening, or the pandemic is still really a real threat. So they minimized the amount of exhibitors that could table. So we were able to space out. So this might not apply for later conventions if the pandemic is a little bit more controlled. But yeah, they spaced our tables out. They had masks and sanitizer available for you and for people who wanted to come in and wear masks and didn't have any. They encourage people to wear masks in the venue, but you can't control what people are going to do. So some people just didn't wear masks, which is fine, but all the artists had to wear their masks. So I had my mask on throughout the 2 days I was tabling. Again, traffic for VanCAF was excellent, but again, like I said earlier in the video, it might depend on, just the pandemic just pandemic restrictions lifting a little bit, so more people are outside, more people are willing to go to conventions because they've been starved of it for the last 2 or 3 years. So again, it might be slower next year or something like that, but traffic this year was excellent, and I think it's going to be excellent going forward, just because VanCAF is becoming a really popular convention in Canada. Comics and stuff are, yeah, so I think traffic is going to be great. But again, it depends on the timing and your table location, like I said earlier. But another good thing about VanCAF is just fellow artists. It's such a great place to talk to other artists who are in the same scene as you. You can network, you can meet new artists. I always try to walk around at conventions and pick up either business cards or buy some merchandise from my fellow artists, and I think this is a thing that other artists do as well. That's one of the biggest things that I love about artist alleys and tabling at conventions, no matter if it's an indie artist, scene or an anime scene. I just love meeting other artists in that, way. It's just so fun. It's just hard sometimes when the convention is really busy and I don't have a helper with me, so I can't really walk around or leave my table, but I really try to walk around and just see what's out there. And sometimes the convention is too big and I can't go to all the tables, but if I'm an attendee, I just love meeting other artists, and it's equally, not equally, but it's even better if you're also tabling, because you can talk to other artists and be like, yo, how was your day yesterday? Wasn't it so busy? So it's really fun to just talk about that as well and just meet new artists. And I met a bunch of new artists and follow other artists when I went to VanCAF this year. So yeah, In terms of recommending VanCAF, I totally recommend you apply for it. I had one question from somebody saying they don't really do comics, but could they apply? And I think VanCAF prefers if you have at least 1 or 2 comics when you are going to be tabling at VanCAF. So prepare something like a zine or a comic for it and then apply. So I would recommend that you try it out because it's really chill, it's really fun, and if you're local, the costs for you are not going to be so crazy compared to somebody coming outside of Vancouver. So if it's local, definitely apply, create a comic, create a zine, and just try it out. It's really fun, and I think the traffic is going to be great, and the people are great, the staff is great, it's awesome. So yeah, if you're not local, it really depends on what you're trying to aim for. It's gonna be way difficult for you because Vancouver is very, very expensive. So I spent a lot of money going to Vancouver, and I already knew that going in. Food there is extremely expensive. We spent so much money going out for food. So yeah, and even just getting coffee there is way more expensive than in Ontario. So if you're local, it's a lot easier just because you can cut the cost of travel, finding a place to stay, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would recommend it if you're local, but if you are not local, it would really depend on your goals, just because it's so expensive. And then I guess I wanted to mention, it is an excellent scene if you are doing comics, if you are in the indie comic scene. It might not be your scene if you do a lot of, fan art and anime stuff, because there are conventions that cater to that stuff, but VanCAF is kind of not really. It would really depend, I guess. You could create anime stuff, and there are some people who are there to see that, but I think VanCAF is more of an indie comic scene, but definitely not prejudiced against people who do anime stuff. But yeah, it's if you do comics that are anime, then there you go, you can still apply, and I think it'll be a great scene for you. It's a great convention overall. In terms of me doing it again personally, I don't think I would apply to VanCAF for next year. I might wait a couple more years to apply, just because I've already seen most of that area of Vancouver. My goal when I applied for VanCAF the first time was to kind of visit that side of Canada. I've never been to that side of Canada before, so going there twice now, I think I've covered most of the bases of Vancouver itself. I went to Stanley Park. I went to like the beaches, just like downtown Vancouver. I've explored enough, and I don't think it would warrant another trip for me to be worth it. But we'll see. Maybe in a couple of years I'll apply again to VanCAF and just table there. But in terms of applying again personally, I think I'm gonna wait a little bit, a couple more years or something, and see if I really want to go, unless I get invited as a guest or something. But yeah, I wouldn't go back. I'm not gonna go back anytime soon, but it's definitely still a great con, and if I can go without the expense, I would definitely sign up again. Well, I don't think we're gonna have time to do the Q&A actually, so I think I'm not gonna do the Q&A in this video, but I'm going to do it in another video. We are gonna have more of these real-time videos coming up because I have a lot of painting to do for this comic. So yeah, let me just talk about the comic actually at the end of this video, well, towards the end of it. So like I said in the very beginning, this comic is going to be debuting at the Shortbox Virtual Comics Fair. The name of this comic at this moment, I think it's going to be the final title. It's going to be called Tomorrow We Feast. So that's the title. I actually worked on this comic a couple years ago when I was trying to create a horror anthology of comics. So this was one of the stories that I created but never finished. I actually finished it. I finished the thumbnails, but I never finished it to final printing stage. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do for Shortbox. Yeah, and I'm going to go with the style that I went with for Too Much on Your Plate. So it's going to be watercolor, and I am going to be printing this myself to be sold on my store. at this point on the thumbnails there are 70 or so pages, so it's quite long. Although, like I said, I think I'm going to cut up a bunch of the panels and kind of merge them together to make it a little bit shorter, because if I decide to print this on my own, it's gonna take forever, and Too Much on Your Plate is already taking forever to print. I did go to a couple of print shops to get a quote for printing for Too Much on Your Plate, but it was just way too expensive when I could do it myself at home for much cheaper with my own ink and my own paper. So I'm not sure yet. Again, it depends on how much pages this comic is going to end up being. I might have to go to a outside printer to get it done so I can have it for sale on my store, but that's going to be a while later. But this is definitely going to be up for sale in October for short box. I'm not sure what the price is going to be yet. I need to look at the spreadsheet that I was sent for the info there, but yeah, it's going to be a long comic, long horror comic, and just keep a lookout on my vlogs to get some updates on it. I'll probably show a couple pages here and there, and we are definitely going to be working on the cover together. I'm going to make that into another real-time video, so hopefully I do that anyway. It's quite far away. I tend to do a lot of my covers for my comics at the end, so I can get like the full vibe of it once I finish the pages. I want the interior pages to match the outside pages, so we're going to be working on that either as a separate video or in the vlog. Yeah, so what else should I say? So it's going to be watercolor. It's a horror comic, and I just really like to do horror comics. So and I really like how Too Much on Your Plate looked at the end with all the watercolors. So I think at this point, because I finished Too Much on Your Plate in the watercolor style and it was pretty successful printing it out myself, I'm not as scared creating a comic in full watercolor as I was. Although I'm saying this because I'm printing all the comics out myself. If I do go to an outside printer, I need to assess what the color quality is like once they do print it out on their end, because, you know, it's different. I don't have full control of that if I do end up going with an outside printer. But anyway, I'm just happy with how Too Much on Your Plate ended up looking like. So I'm going to be continuing that on this comic tomorrow. Yeah, Tomorrow We Feast. So yeah, that's what it's called. So I still need to get my head wrapped around the title. So I'm going to be going full speed ahead on the pages for this. I'm aiming to try and do a page a day if I can, or at least a page every other day, because it's quite a lot of pages and a lot of painting to do. So that's going to be my life for the next couple of months, and hopefully I can get it done by September, because, you know, this month is going to be pretty, the next couple months are going to be pretty busy. Summer is usually when conventions happen, so I have a couple of conventions lined up. I have TCAF, which is coming up in 2 weeks, and July I have one convention, which is a local convention, and it's just a one-day convention, and it's not comics focused, so I don't really need to have anything new there. I'm just going to be selling some sticker books and some of the merch that I already have there. It's called the Kazoo Print Expo. I actually made a list on my website listing all the conventions that are coming up for me this year, so that's up there if you're interested in checking that out. Okay, back to the comic. Other than me being happy with the style, I'm a little bit nervous about the story with this comic. This comic has a little bit more dialogue, at least right now, because I still haven't pared down the pages, but this comic has a bit more dialogue than I usually put into my comics. A lot of the things that I write don't really have much dialogue, so I'm a little bit nervous about this one. There's going to be two main characters, and the two main characters interact quite a bit, and so hopefully I am able to create, you know, characters that have a little bit of body to them. And I'm just afraid that they just say stuff in the comic without, and don't really have an impact to the reader. So that's what I'm worried about. I just don't want to create empty characters that just fuel the plot. I want characters that have a little bit of substance. So I'm afraid of that. I think thinking about it now, the characters are a little bit empty, but it's a horror comic, so the ending is a bit kind of like so But yeah, I'm a bit nervous about the dialogue in this, and hopefully it's not too cringy, because I feel like when I do dialogue it might be a little bit too cringy, at least to me. That's why I tend to want less dialogue, so it can be a little bit more open to interpretation to the reader, which has its pros and cons as well. But yeah, so that's the one thing I'm quite nervous about in this comic, like I said. I wrote this comic when I was dieting. So it has that aspect to it if you end up reading it when it debuts at Shortbox. I tend to write a lot of my comics when I'm going through something big, or if something in my life is, you know, impacting my thoughts quite a bit, like it's something major. So I was doing a lot of dieting around the time I was doing this comic, so that was kind of the main inspiration for it, which is kind of funny. And so if you do end up reading it, I wonder if you can catch the dieting technique that I was going through when I was writing this. But yeah, so the page that I'm working on right now that you're looking at is actually an Instagram inspired thread or spread or page. So the Instagram quote-unquote account is like this influencer's account, and instead of Instagram it's called Grammarr, like glamour but gram. So that's my IP. If anybody takes that, it's originally mine. If you see an app that comes up that's called Grammarr, that's my idea. Just joking. So I just wanted to create a page where the character is looking at somebody's, like this influencer's Instagram page, and her photos are really aesthetic. I mean, I tried my best, but usually aesthetic Instagram accounts are more minimalist and like more aesthetic than what I have. I just kind of laid out some pictures where the Instagrammer here is looking really cute and has a picture of her traveling and of her food and her petting her cat and coffee, of course. So at the end of the video, towards the end of this video, you'll actually see me edit these pages on Photoshop to be the final pages. They're not totally final. I still have to add a little bit of dialogue on the second and I think the second page, but I had a lot of fun making this page into like a fake Instagram account. So I played around with a lot of the text and just some quote-unquote graphic design, which I don't know if I failed or not. I had a lot of fun creating the fake logo for Instagram, or the Grammarr account, and I also included some old usernames of some members and past patrons. So in the past on my Patreon, I said if you signed up as a patron, you're going to be featured in my comics as a cameo, either as like a username. So some of the usernames of the Instagram accounts are actually from my past patrons / current members. So if you are watching that and you see your like account name, that's you. It was also fun putting together the photos or the icons for these, you know, fake accounts, and a lot of them are just like photos of myself. So that was really fun putting that together. Hopefully in the end when it prints out, it's fun. So a lot of this comic is also a lot of social media, so it's gonna be a lot of work putting that together and designing that to make it look good, because I don't want it to look like, you know, graphic design is my passion and kind of cringy. I don't really know what else to say other than show you the rest of the painting, which is kind of repetitive actually. So what I've been doing is with watercolors is like with my color pencils, I lay down a base of like just flats for the most part, leaving some whites for the highlights open, like as you can see with the, like for the sky or the beach or something, or highlights in the face, I leave that white, and then I go over it again with another layer of watercolor for shading. So kind of like a cell shading. I don't really do too much blending. I will do some blending for the background, but I don't do a lot of blending actually with watercolors. I just do a lot of layering and cell shading, if you can call it that. So yeah, again, I don't really know what else to talk about. I think I've covered most of everything about VanCAF in this video. If I missed anything that you were curious about, please let me know. I know I have a question in my community tab about, you know, my experience with my first convention and how that went. I think I covered a little bit about that in this in this video. I'll talk about it more when I do that Q&A. I just don't think I have enough time for the questions for the amount remaining in this video. So I'll quickly talk about it actually if people are curious. So I think one of my first conventions, or my very first convention, was an anime and gaming expo. So it was actually a convention where attendees had to pay to get in. And my very first table, it was like a 3-foot table, so I was sharing my space with somebody. I didn't have comics back then. I only had a couple prints that I actually printed out at Walmart, and I think I had my buttons at that point. That was my very first like big Illustrator purchase, was a button maker. So I had a couple buttons. I did a lot of original artwork. I was starting watercolor then, so I was selling a lot of original artwork. Again, my prints I printed out from Walmart for a couple of cents. I had some buttons, which was my big purchase. I didn't even have prints. The only prints I had were those prints that I sold at Walmart. I got at Walmart. I think I had a couple stickers that I printed out from a local printer. So I asked them if they could print out like these drawings that I did on sticker paper, and they were able to do that. So I just cut those stickers on my own. So that's basically what I sold. I don't remember how much I paid for the table, but I don't think it was that expensive. It was, again, my first convention. I really didn't know what I was getting into. I just knew, again, that the convention was more of an anime and gaming scene. So like I said, I had to make some merch that had, you know, some anime. So I chose Kiki's Delivery Service from what I remember. I think I had a Sailor Moon drawing, I think, and a couple like Pokemon buttons. So I don't remember how much I sold. I think I did more. I made more than I thought I would have, probably like $200 or something like that. But that was my very first convention. It was a positive one because I met a few artists that, you know, were really friendly. My first convention, it was already really fun because I just met our artists on doing the same thing as me, and we had a lot of conversations. It was a good experience. It was my first one. I wasn't too nervous in terms of selling because, again, the foot traffic for that convention wasn't very much, so it wasn't very busy. I didn't get too overwhelmed. I already knew about floats. I did know about that just reading from a Tumblr page that was talking about conventions. So I don't remember why I decided to do conventions. I think it was just because it was local, it was close, I was able to, and I guess I wasn't busy. I wanted to do it. I just don't remember back then, but it was a good first experience. I kind of just brought things that I already was able to do really easily. I didn't spend too much money, but I made $200, so that was really good. I really didn't know what to expect tabling at my first convention. Like, I just kind of jumped into it, and I think the advice that I would give for somebody who is thinking about going into, you know, doing conventions or artist alleys is to pick a convention or artist alley that is local to you, that is not too difficult to get to. You don't want to do like your first convention as like an international thing, or like something you have to travel different provinces for via plane or something like that, because it can be very difficult and very expensive. So if you can find something local or something that's like maybe an hour commute away, and that would be something that would be easier to just jump in so you can get the feel and the experience of that. Don't spend too much money in terms of creating your merchandise. If you can do everything at home, do that, so you can kind of just gauge what you're able to do and what you can save money with. You don't want to like make decisions on like big things to buy, like acrylic charms or something like that, without knowing what the scene is going to be. And try and find a convention. This might be difficult to be picky with, but if you are able to like, you know what you want to do. If you like to do like anime, if you like to do fan art and all that, and comics, just find a convention that you're able to get to easy, you know, and something that you will enjoy. You don't want to do like a convention that is about gaming and you don't really play games. It's going to be difficult to kind of cater. Even you can, you know, create stuff that will appeal to a general population, like I said, but you might not make as much money as you could if you picked something that you are passionate about and, you know, will really fit your style. But in the beginning, if you're just choosing a convention just to try it out and, you know, wet your feet or dip your feet into, then find a local convention and don't spend too much money. Just kind of like observe, enjoy it, just talk to other artists and other, like, your table mates. That's like the best thing to do. It's just so fun meeting your table mates if you are sharing a table. So I guess that's my piece of advice when you are jumping into conventions, is to find something local, don't spend too much money, and just observe. And because if you go into like a really big convention for your first one, it can be very overwhelming. So just find something local. I'm sure there are like little craft fairs, maybe somewhere that some schools are holding. So there's a lot of craft fairs and conventions out there that you don't know about. Just do a little bit of research, a little bit of Googling, and you'll be able to find one. So I guess, yeah, that's my chunk of advice there in terms of jumping into artist alleys. For me, it's been so long since I did my first convention, but it wasn't a bad experience. I didn't really have any kind of like trauma from it because I picked something that I thought I could handle. It wasn't too crazy. I knew it wasn't like the Toronto Comic Con where it was each table is like $700. So I didn't spend too much money. But it was a very big learning experience. I learned a lot. So yeah, and there's also a lot of YouTube videos cropping up now of people doing like their first tables, their first artist alleys, and those are really fun to watch. So I would recommend watching those as well, because you can get like some insight into, you know, how different artists approach their tables, how they, you know, handled their first one. So those are really fun to watch. I've been watching a lot of those. So yeah. Alright, so I think I'm going to move on to the part of the video where I'm editing the pages on Photoshop, so you can see that. Since this comic is going to be the same size as Too Much on Your Plate and a bunch of the other comics that I've done in the past, like Dental Plan and Story, I'm just using the template that I used for Too Much on Your Plate for this one. So you saw in the beginning, I just copied and, you know, saved over the first page of Too Much on Your Plate, and I'm using this and I'm just editing. I scanned it and at 300 dpi, and I'm just cleaning up with, you know, the dust brush tool. And for this first page, I'm not sure yet if I want the dark window there. I might get rid of that and just leave it as what I had, which was a window that had light coming through. But I really wanted to show that the first page was like a dark, she was in a dark room just looking at her computer on these like Instagram accounts or something like that. So I haven't decided yet. I wish I had just painted it black with watercolor instead of doing it on Photoshop. So for this first page, I'm not totally sure if this is the direction I'm gonna go with, but I'm still pretty happy with the final results. So we'll see what it looks like once it prints out. I do also feel like, I think I'm gonna add a little bit of some, like a thought bubble, maybe some text on this, because I feel like the bottom of the page is a little bit too empty. And so for the second page, this is the this is where I start to do like the fake Instagram page called Grammar. So I just used the format of, like, I just did a print screen of my screen of Instagram, and I just kind of loosely copied that. This took a lot of time because I tried to figure out the fonts that I was going to use. I didn't want to write anything down because I wanted it to be typed out so it can look like an actual web page. So I had a lot of fun doing this. I was going through a lot of the font for Webdings, Wingdings 2, and Wingdings 3, which were really helpful because it keeps that kind of crisp look instead of me writing out the text. I usually like to write in the text because I like that more handwritten look, but because this is going to be like an Instagram page and a website, I wanted everything to be typed up and neat. And you'll see later, I just used a bunch of my own photos to create the avatars and the icons, and the picture that has actually featured is the picture that I took at the Vancouver Aquarium. And the avatar for Mary Molly, that's actually my personal Instagram account. That's where I post just like pictures of food and stuff like that, and not art related content. So if you're looking to follow my personal Instagram account, that's my account name. So yeah, I had a lot of fun creating this page. It took a lot of time, and actually the power went out when I was in the middle of making this, so it took extra double time because I had to, it didn't save, so I had to redo it all over again. But I'm happy with the end result. Alright, so that is it for this long ass real-time video. I hope you enjoyed it, having this in the background. I hope when I talked about VanCAF, that was at least a little bit interesting to you if you're a little bit curious of how the trip went and how the convention went. I hope I have summarized my thoughts sort of neatly. I feel like I kind of ramble every time I do any commentary or voiceover, but if I left anything out or if there's anything that you're curious about, just leave it in the comment section and I might answer it in the comments or in the next Q&A video. So yeah, these are how the pages turned out like. If you let me know what you think. I really like how they turned out, and I'm excited for this comic to get on. There's a lot more pages that we have to do, so we are just starting. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I really appreciate you watching my videos. If you are curious about wanting to sign up as a member for my club, I'll leave a link down below. I also just recently opened up Patreon again because I've had a couple of inquiries from people who can't pay through the Squarespace members areas because Squarespace doesn't accept PayPal. So if you want to be, if you want to get like the mail outs every month, I have some spots on Patreon, so you can check that out. If you can't pay by credit card, but you can pay by PayPal, so you can check out that Patreon link. But yeah, I will see you guys in the next video, which is going to be a vlog. So, and maybe I'll see you at TCAF. So I will be there. I'll leave some information on that down below as well. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.